Welcome to the Victorian Chamber of Commerce and Industry. My name is Anton Zytnik and I'm the manager of the Health, Safety and Wellbeing team. In this conversation, I'll be talking with my colleague Phil Lovelock. Phil is a senior health, safety and wellbeing consultant and policy advisor, and we're going to be discussing some recent changes to the Occupational Health and Safety Act, particularly the changes that come into effect on the 22nd of March this year that relate to the employer's obligation toward labour hire workers. Okay, so Phil, thank you very much for joining me. What I thought we could start out with is if you could just provide everyone with a brief summary of what the changes are to employers' obligations toward their labour hire workers.
There are changes to three sections of the Act, essentially. First is Section 21, which covers the duties of employers to their employees. Under Section 21, subsection 3, that also includes independent contractors that an employer engages and any employees of the independent contractors. So they are also considered to be employees of the employer. These changes mean that labour hire employees also become employees of the employer, the host employer, as well as the provider of the labour hire employer. What happens here is that now the employer must provide and maintain a working environment that is safe and without risk to health, so far as is reasonably practicable, to all employees, including labour hire employees. And under Section 22, they need to monitor the health of the employees, monitor conditions at any workplace under the employer's management and control. They need to provide information to employees about health and safety. They need to keep information and records relating to the health and safety of these labour hire employees. They need to employ or engage persons suitably qualified to provide health and safety advice to the employer. That doesn't necessarily mean that they have to have an OHS person on their staff, but it means that they would engage somebody like myself or you, Anton, from the chamber to give them advice where necessary.
So could you give a practical example of a pretty typical employer that uses labour hire and how their obligations under these new changes would differ from what they might have been, let's say, a year ago before the changes came into place?
Effectively, what happens now is that any employee, be they an independent contractor or an employee of a contractor, a labour hire employee, the employer has the same duties to those labour hire employees as they do to any other of their employee that they might have on board.
So is it fair to say in summary that it makes the obligations of employers toward their labour hire employees far more explicit?
That's right. And I can give you an example. Under Section 22, subsection 1, paragraph A, monitoring the health of employees, the host employer wasn't required to do or isn't required to do that currently, but as of the 22nd of March, they are required to do that as if it was any other employee of theirs. Similarly, providing information around health and safety, keeping information and records relating to the health and safety of the employee, and several other things, including a new section under Section 35 of the Act, talking about consultation, must also occur as of the 22nd of March this year, whereas it doesn't currently occur.
Some top recommendations for our members and clients and any other employers listening to this. What are some of the main things that employers need to be aware of post-March 22 that they may not have needed to consider previously?
Consult, cooperate and coordinate with the labour hire provider. It's not just a matter of now receiving a labour hire worker, giving them a job to do and assuming everything else is the responsibility of the labour hire provider. Now the host employer must cooperate, coordinate, consult with the labour hire provider on everything, including the tasks to be performed, how they're to be performed, where they're to be performed, when, etc., and to discuss how the safety of the employee, the labour hire employee, is to be managed.
So would it be a fair summary to say to all employers that if you've got people either working on your sites or are in some way affected by your operations, that basically regard them as your own employees, irrespective of whatever employment relationship sits behind them being on your site?
Spot on.